Simon.
How you doing?
Great.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Simon, that was excellent talk, and you managed to unlock the challenge of mobile monetization in 10 minutes. So
we know how
that's
to
excellent.
make it
Well
work
done.
now,
But I'd like to come to Jeff. So Jeff, you're the Chief Product and Digital Officer at Johnston Press, the UK local media group, and previously you were at the Boston Globe, helped launch Boston.com, and one of the things which you were one of the first to do was actually send Boston.com fully responsive. So we've actually got two sort of advocates of responsive design here. I wondered if you could give us just a quick sort of top line stats of the sorts of audience behavior you're seeing and the sorts of goals you've got for 2015 when it comes to mobile and trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we launched BostonGlobe.com in 2011. It was one of the earliest responsive sites, and had to sort of figure things out because of that. And now it's 5 years later. I've come to a new place, and we have 200 sites, across the UK, and we're moving to a responsive environment. So a lot of things have changed, and I think some of the things we're looking at now are how responsive needs to evolve, and we're seeing some publishers who have sort of stayed away from it because they feel like sort of pixel perfection is needed, where you need some sense of curation and a sense of sort of a flow of content.
What do you mean by pixel perfection?
Really carefully edited and curated homepages, or
Right.
screens for tablets or mobile screens.
Yeah.
So instead of responsive is sort of not, it sort of flows, but it's not perfect from screen to screen. So some publishers have said, we're staying away from that because we want to have more control.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting now that that's going on, and there's some data showing that more control actually drives better clicks. So being able to sort of balance those two trends, wanting to be on every platform, but also wanting to, have something that feels sort of curated for the reader.
Yeah. So what, are you in the 50% plus of people sort of coming to Johnston Press sites?
Yeah, we're in regional markets throughout the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland. And it's 60-70% on the weekends, and so it depends on the region.
And so is this, is the pie growing, or is the audience actually shifting? Are these additional users? Are these the same users coming to you twice, or is it actually a shift in
I think
behavior?
we reach 20 million uniques right now in the UK, and I just don't know how many more people are going to come to our sites. There's what 56 million people in the country, so we're not in the entire country. So I think it's about frequency and engagement. Getting people back more often is the trick now.
So, in terms of new product development, what have you got in the pipeline? Getting people to come back. Is it native apps? Is it just responsive sites?
Early on I was pretty religious about responsive being the solution. Native apps are not necessary, but I think it really is both now. And I've heard someone say native is the people who install your app are your self-selecting loyalists, and when they do, they consume a ton of content. So 3 years ago I would have said it was all about web apps, and now I think it's both. I don't know where you are on that.
Well, we made a decision very early on that would be a web app, and that was for a simple reason, that we were launching a new global business brand, and so we needed to get scale quickly. And if you need to get scale quickly, then you need to reduce the friction around the user interface with what you're doing. So it was pretty simple. We weren't going to ask people to download an app. We weren't going to ask people to remember a password. We weren't going to put a paywall up. A lot of different things that you can make a good business case for were put to one side whilst we pursued scale initially. And that's still the strategy. We've never said never to apps, but we think that would be for potentially a specific tool for, as you mentioned, like your Uber user.
We had the same football content on a web app and then a native app, and small sites, but it was 6 times the engagement on the native app versus the web app, and so I think it really is, I think, about both ultimately. You want to try to get both types of users.
It seems to me that you're both looking at when it comes to sort of sports specific sports content in a native app, or when it comes to a curated newsletter, you're sort of unbundling this idea of an omnibus site, which kind of an omnibus brand which sits there on a site, but actually sort of, be it social, old school email, you're sort of taking lots of these products apart and making quite specific changes. Can you reflect more on that?
I think that's about trying to understand these users' behavior and what it is they do and when do they do it and how do they like to do it and what do they like to view it on, and that's constantly shifting, which is always difficult, but we're fortunate that in digital we can shift with them. And we've been through 3 different iterations of Quartz if you looked at it from a user, we've been through about 200 from the back end.
Yeah.
But and that's all about following your user. We're not trying to move them into doing what we're doing. We're seeing what they're doing, we're understanding their habits, and then we're doing that, whether that's a morning email or ensuring that they can share and come across the content as easily as possible.
Yeah. And is data driving any of this? Everyone looks to the sophistication of something like Amazon.com and the level of personalization which they're sort of getting. It's lean times for publishers. It's hard to invest in technology like that. But
it has to be. It has to be driven by the data. And I think I heard this week that there was an experiment on a native app with totally curated homepage of news versus a stream of content based on recency. And outperforming both of those was 2 items that were editor curated and the rest personalized, and that had a 25% lift in engagement. So it feels like the combination of editor curated and behaviorally personalized is kind of the mix that everybody's trying to get to right now. Yeah,
absolutely. And so we talk about sort of unbundling these different products and sections, the different content desks and that sort of thing. If you're a legacy publisher, does that sort of break this idea of a very sort of automated, the conversation we're having around automation and scale and on the advertising side, there was a great quote from someone I was talking to on the way in, which was, it's the tracking that's lacking. When it comes to mobile monetization, is that something that you're seeing, and is native the only way for mobile monetization?
I think native is a great opportunity to monetize the mobile screen, no doubt about it. We have a unique situation that we reach small businesses. So what we're trying to figure out is, what is the small business solution for native advertising, which is different than a large brand. So we're trying to take that concept down to the really local level. That's where we are. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. We kind of opted out. So we decided we weren't going to do anything standard. We're not on any networks. Programmatic we've heard of it. So we build everything bespoke, and it's worked. But it takes a lot of investment, and you're right. There's a lot of different things that publishers can be spending their money on now, and I think so we're extremely fortunate that we're owned by an individual that backed us and said, what would you build from scratch if you had a blank piece of paper? And that's literally how it started. A table like this with 6 people around it that were hired with a blank piece of paper saying, what would we build? It's mobile first, it's global. And what we decided we would do is we would build sponsored content units, and we would build big, juicy display units. I get it. Our editor-in-chief is Kevin Delaney, who founded Quartz, who's employee number 1, was formerly 16 years at the Wall Street Journal, before that managing editor at WSJ.com, is really knows what he's doing digitally, but is a magazine junkie. Loves magazines, has about 20 different subscriptions. It's easier in the States because they're all $10 a year. But he's got all these subscriptions. So his challenge to us right from the start was, and he completely gets that Mary Meeker slide about why, proportionately to time spent, less money is invested in digital, and that's because magazine ad experience is a good one. It's a native one. It's there. You experience it in the same way. And so his challenge to us constantly is make these ads as good as they are in the magazines that I read every month.
And I suppose the next challenge with mobile monetization is actually getting agencies and brands to sort of see it as a brand medium, right? So it sounds like you've put a lot of investment into. I think I remember you saying it was a 30 odd team of creatives actually just making it easy for agencies to transact.
Yeah, you can't just say, we're going to do this bespoke thing, make it for us. You know, you do have to then go out and invest. We've invested in former journalists, coders, engineers, designers, everything that you need. It's basically a shadow editorial team meets a creative agency. And we can get as involved or not as clients want. When they let us get involved, they seem to get better results. And so that's an investment we made, and it's a big one. But I think if you're going to ask people to do, you know, clients to commit to the sort of thing we're doing, you have to do it. Otherwise, they really won't take you very seriously.
Jeff, are you in the fortunate position of being able to opt out of exchanges and programmatic, or is it a different story?
I wish we were. I mean, when we started the Boston Globe, we were starting from scratch, so we had the chance to experiment with responsive, you know, and really take a chance there to try to scale it as quickly as possible across all screens. But it's really hard in a legacy business. You sort of get hooked on the crack of banner ads, and it's very hard to think about eliminating them. So it's much harder, I think, when you're a legacy digital business, which is what we have now. So.
Yeah. And so how is the mobile revenue for you growing? You know, is it still, you know, are we still talking about a sort of, you know, it being this is a broad level and an existential threat? Are you making progress in closing that?
Yeah, I mean,
gap?
we watch it every month. You know, where are we in terms of desktop and mobile revenue and in relation to traffic? And it's a constant focus. You know, we're at, you know, maybe 10% of our local display is through on the mobile screen. Yeah. We're starting to sell mobile first now, so to small businesses selling a mobile banner only, no print, no desktop, just mobile. You know, because certain businesses, you know, having that ad on someone's phone makes perfect sense. So we're starting to look at it as its own revenue stream that we're going after, you know, independently.
And have sort of targeting capabilities, you know, geofencing, are you seeing demand for that? You know, is that something which is, you know, raising your prices and revenue?
We're so local in our titles, we don't have to necessarily add that other layer of geography yet, but I'm not sure where you are on location.
On location, so you know, we're global, so we go down to countries. We can do by state in the US if you want it. We tend to the smallest we'll get is a UK campaign, to be honest. So it's less of an issue for us at the moment.
Fine.
When we get that really big scale, then I'll see you again wherever we are next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Jeff, you know, we're not just talking about this from a sort of a technical challenge. You know, how are you working with the teams and trying to sort of evangelize the idea that, you know, mobile is now one of our, you know, it's not a second-class citizen anymore. It's most of our custom now, at least digitally. You know, give some idea of how you're trying to change the culture.
Well, I mean, one way is I've said this many times, and I think I've stolen it from someone, which is if you're in a meeting for longer than 10 minutes and you haven't talked about the mobile experience, then leave. Because you're in the wrong meeting. What's that?
That might be Mark Zuckerberg.
It could have been. Maybe it was Mark, but it's like get out because you know you're focusing on the wrong thing. So. I don't know, you have to be pretty blunt about it. I mean, we still have people who want to focus on print. And so, you know, that's so far away from mobile. So, you know, it's a constant challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's different for you having started with that from scratch, but is there still a mobile gap even for a mobile first publisher?
There absolutely is. It's narrowing, but ever so slightly. And I think that most of the clients we go and speak to still consider mobile as a less premium, as less suitable for branding. It's not, but it takes a bit of a persuasion to do that. When we first launched, I would say that 70% of the people we dealt with wanted to go desktop and then maybe tablet only, and the rest probably hadn't realized that we also were on mobile. But that's reducing, but it's still an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 5 minutes for questions and additional chat. Has anyone got something they'd like to put to the panel? Put your hands up. We've got mics on either side. We've got one there, one over there.
Hi. I'm Jaime from Hurriyet, one of the largest publishers in continental Europe.
Hi.
Just want to ask you, all the lights are on first. Just want to ask you, it was very interesting how you're monetizing mobile with small and medium-sized businesses. Are you giving them self-serving ad screens, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's still
Thanks.
still relatively manual, but we have about 1,000 salespeople who go around the UK selling advertising, and so it's about providing a service. We create a banner for them. We create thousands per month, per week, and we load those up into the site and target those across our local titles. So it's not yet a self-serve proposition. I think it may get there, but at this moment, small businesses are so busy that they can't even think about answering the phone sometimes. So self-serve is still a ways off, I think. But we do try to streamline the process as much as possible. I think it's part of our value proposition is that we're in the market. We have people, a service that can help them get online, advertise online.
Any more?
Hi, it's Paul Lomax from Dennis. So we talked about mobile being social. How important is search on mobile? And does making an experience optimized for social make it harder to optimize for search engines?
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah. He's making notes.
Hello, Paul. We don't have a search strategy. We don't think too much about search. Social is number one in terms of our mind, and we don't even say that we have a social strategy. It's just how it should be written. If you want it to be consumed and to grow digitally, is in a way that it will be shared socially.
From my perspective, responsive is our search strategy. Google likes it. It likes the simplicity of responsive, in the experience. So to some extent, the responsive strategy handles the search engines.
One final thing. I always like challenges and mistakes. So could each of you go through one thing that you've tried in mobile that you thought was going to work but totally didn't? Jeff, you want to start?
I remember when we were first launching the Boston Globe site in 2010, 2011, we tried to build a responsive ad, and it was for JetBlue, the airline, and there was no responsive ad option in DFP at the time. So we had to hard code it onto the page. That was the only way at the time that we could get the ad to work. So it worked, but it was sold way before the technology was capable of it.
It doesn't exactly scale.
No.
Simon?
We did something we shouldn't have done. We should have pushed back on a client, but they had an ad which had a form to fill in on it, which works really nicely on desktop and kind of works on tablet, but it really didn't, especially when we had that first ad unit, which was this big. It was horrible. It looked horrible.
People
it
had to
didn't
be
work.
really, really into it.
You had to persist.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent.